in the West, the big question is how to develop growth of the economy. And in the UK, it's been the fact for many decades that it is our international trading role that is the source of a lot of the growth that we do. And that includes our ability to bring in inward investment as well as invest overseas. And when it comes to inward investment, what we found is that we weren't very good at running our own car industry, but other nationalities like the Indians, Japanese, South Koreans have built very successful car industries in the UK. So here we have a situation where China is the most dynamic growing economy in the world. It's decided to go global and operate in many other countries for a variety of different reasons. And it is perfectly right, proper, and certainly just about in time for our leaders to be going out there saying to China, we are open for business, which is what they're saying.
When you say just about in time, what do you mean exactly?
Well, history moves in unpredictable ways, and things happen at different times in different countries, and you only have to go back a few short years before Mrs. Merkel and Mr. Sarkozy were having problems with the Chinese over the Dalai Lama, as the British had as well. So the disruptions in the relationship that occur have something to do with the Dalai Lama. They also have something to do with China saying, we're not a small country anymore. We need you to take our concerns and our core issues into account when you're dealing with us. We're not just going to roll over and accept your dictates of how we will relate to each other. And that change of a relationship, you can see it in a man and woman in many different areas of life. When you change a relationship, it can take some time for both sides to adjust. And it's not, we're at the moment of adjustment right now, but the period of adjustment will be 3, 5, 7 years. So we have had a hiatus. We seem to be moving nicely beyond that hiatus, but respecting each other's different systems and ways of doing things is still a challenge for us to overcome over the next 3 to 5 years.
How do you think the Chinese view Britain?
Well, that's a good question, and it's changed. At the one level, you've got the Opium Wars and the history of China over the last 150 years, which is one of the two major factors that shapes Chinese thinking, the other one being the sheer excessive size of their population. So those two features have had a lot to do with China wanting to develop in a way that doesn't allow themselves to be put back at the mercy of Western traders, as they see it, from the 19th century. On the other hand, you have a great respect in China for the Industrial Revolution. We are the originators of it. We're the people who carried it out, and the Chinese have a great respect and fascination for that. They're also very interested in one other thing, which the British probably have been a little bit unaware of the great asset that we have. We've had 300 years without a civil war. We've managed to go through the processes of industrial development, industrial revolution, and beyond that, and able to manage the compromises in our economic and social compacts that enable us to do that without a breakdown of law and order. So, there are all those features in the Sino-British relationship, and you add to that a respect for our culture, our history, our language, which is international, and some sensitivity, as I go back to the Opium Wars, to the sense that the British think maybe some China would think that the British would think that maybe they're a little bit superior to the Chinese. But, there are probably some in British circles who have some views like that about China, and I don't think they are the dominant thoughts anymore. The main thought for the Chinese about the British, looking forward, would be how can we learn from how the British coped with the Industrial Revolution, and how can the British play a role in our going global as an economy, and what role will the British play in the reorganization of the international architecture of global institutions, which is bound to come along as we move into a newly multipolar world ahead.
Great, that's a great answer. Drilling down a little bit, George Osborne has said, okay, we're going to simplify this horrendously bureaucratic and very difficult visa procedure for Chinese visitors to the UK. I mean, how's that going to go down, and how will it benefit everybody?
15 years ago, I proposed to the British government that we organise an exception to the British visa rules for the Chinese to make them more aligned to the Schengen mechanism for Chinese visitors. And I was told to take a walk for an idea like that. Well, I'm not trying to say I was right and we wasted 15 years. The changes in the visas, both the making visas for Britain more difficult, is a result of internal political pressures within the United Kingdom, having nothing to do with China at all. And the changes in visa procedures for the Chinese has everything to do with the Chinese. That is that George Osborne, along with many other of our leaders, say the key to British growth lies in developing the emerging markets. The emerging markets of the world, the biggest by far is China. And if we don't open our doors to Chinese inward investment, and we will be unable to mount the case for more British investment in China, for more access by the British in China. The two-way case can only be developed by an ease of exchange of people in both directions. So, yes, it's the right move. Yes, it's a bit late, but these things usually are, and I think it will have good results. I think we'll probably be able to get better Chinese food in London soon as well.
Oh, God, I really hope so. I lived in China for 3 years, and I do miss the nosh. Yeah, I really miss it.
We'll be able to get the oil changed in the restaurant.
Yeah, cool, finally. And just one final thing. I mean, the Chinese are going to invest in a business area near Manchester Airport. There's a potential for a deal for the Chinese to invest in the British nuclear industry. Are we going to see a lot more of this stuff? And is it going to are people going to object to it? This idea that China might be just simply buying up the whole country. Surely people are going to be a little worried about that.
Well, first of all, let's separate between a couple of different things here. There are investments by the Chinese government through their organizations, through their state-owned enterprises, some of which are investment-orientated, which is Thames Water, Manchester Airport, and some of which are operationally orientated, like the nuclear investment. These are serious investments backed by the government. They've probably been thought through and planned for at least 10 to 15 years. That they're good stuff. Then you've got other projects which are being put forward by the developing Chinese private sector. Now, the Chinese private sector is not like we are used to in the UK. The Chinese private sector is created by the Communist Party and is much closer to the party and government than we have concepts of in the UK. And these companies are fairly new, 5-10 years old. They're pretty well resourced. They're pretty well run. They're pretty innovative. They're also likely to be somewhat less deep in their analysis of projects before they get into them. So I think we need to be a little bit more careful about the private sector approaches than we are about the state sector. But in the long run, we do want the Chinese private sector, which is going to grow and grow and grow, to have an active involvement inside the UK. Now, the other aspect to the question which I want to address is, are we asking the Chinese to do what they want to do? In which case, as we probably are, i.e. the Chinese want to develop a global nuclear industry because that's one of their priorities in their 5-year plan. They probably want to invest in real estate because it's a better return than treasury bills. So the Chinese have a number of investment priorities which we're asking them to invest in, that they want to invest in. Now, the question is, and I'm sure George Osborne has this up his sleeve, is what do we want in return? By opening the doors to what the Chinese want, what do we want in return? And I think that what the British will be looking for in return is more access to the Chinese market and more work with the Chinese in third countries. I think there's a lot of opportunities to expand and develop this relationship on the basis of each other's interests. So I don't think we're selling to the Chinese our nuclear opportunity or our opportunity to invest in Manchester. That's the sort of thing that they're looking for. It's important for us to understand that subtlety.